Mia sat at her small kitchen table, staring at a stack of unpaid bills. The dim light from the overhead bulb cast shadows across the room, mirroring the heavy weight pressing down on her chest. Every tick of the wall clock felt like a reminder of how time was slipping away, yet the solutions to her problems seemed further than ever. As a freelance writer, she had always believed in chasing her dreams, but the realities of life as a single mother were far harsher than she had imagined. Her 7-year-old daughter, Emma, was her entire world, a bright, curious child with a love for drawing and storytelling. Emma often filled their modest apartment with laughter, but lately Mia had struggled to find the energy to laugh along. She was behind on rent, their pantry was nearly empty, and she couldn't stop thinking about the upcoming school fees. Mia's dreams of writing a novel had long been shelved, replaced by a never-ending cycle of short-term projects that barely paid enough to keep the lights on. Every rejection email from clients stung more than the last, chipping away at the hope she clung to for Emma's sake. Late one evening, as Mia sipped on the last of their tea, Emma approached her with a crayon drawing. "Mommy, look, it's us, in a big house with flowers everywhere," she said with excitement. Mia smiled, but tears threatened to spill. She vowed that Emma wouldn't have to settle for a life of just getting by. Mia didn't know how or when, but she was determined to find a way to provide Emma with the stability and opportunities she deserved. Little did she know, the answer would come sooner than expected, and in a form she never imagined. The following morning, Mia woke up to the sound of Emma humming in the next room. She sighed, rubbing her temples, and reached for her laptop, hoping to find a new freelance opportunity. As she scrolled through the usual listings, one ad stood out. Personal assistant needed, seeking a discreet and adaptable individual to assist a private client. High salary, on-site position, must be willing to accommodate unique requests. Mia blinked, reading the description again. The job seemed too good to be true, but the words high salary immediately grabbed her attention. She clicked on the listing, scanning for more details. It didn't provide much information about the employer, but it promised full-time hours and financial stability. Exactly what she needed. Doubt crept in. What if she wasn't qualified? What if it turned out to be a scam? Still, her desperation overpowered her hesitations. She submitted a brief application detailing her organizational skills and her ability to handle demanding clients from her writing experience. That evening, as Mia cooked dinner, her phone buzzed. She nearly dropped the pan when she saw the notification. "Your application has been shortlisted. Please attend an interview tomorrow at 10 a.m. Details below." Emma noticed the excitement on her mother's face. "What's wrong, Mommy?" she asked, tugging on Mia's sleeve. "Nothing's wrong, sweetheart," Mia replied, smiling for the first time in weeks. "Something good might be happening for us." The next morning, Mia dressed in her best professional outfit, which consisted of a blazer she hadn't worn since college. As she arrived at the address provided, a grand estate surrounded by high hedges, her nerves nearly got the best of her. She hesitated at the gate, staring at the imposing mansion. "This is it," she whispered, clutching Emma's good luck drawing in her hand. Mia pressed the buzzer. A woman's voice answered, instructing her to come in. The gate slowly creaked open, revealing a winding path lined with manicured gardens. Mia took a deep breath and walked forward, feeling like her life was about to change, though whether for better or worse, she couldn't yet tell. Mia's heart raced as she walked up the stone path toward the mansion. The grand double doors opened before she could knock, revealing a poised woman in her late 40s. "Good morning. I'm Helen, Mr. Ethan Grant's house manager. Please follow me," the woman said curtly, her tone professional but not unkind. The foyer was even more imposing than the exterior, with vaulted ceilings, polished floors, and walls adorned with intricate artwork. Mia struggled to keep her nerves in check as Helen led her through a long corridor. They stopped in front of a door that Helen knocked on lightly. "Mr. Grant, your candidate is here." "Bring her in," a deep voice responded, muffled but firm. As the door opened, Mia saw Ethan Grant for the first time. He sat in a sleek black wheelchair by a large desk, cluttered with sketchbooks and brushes. His dark hair was streaked with gray, and his piercing eyes carried an intensity that made her momentarily forget to breathe. "You're the applicant?" he asked, his tone blunt, his eyes scanning her from head to toe. "Yes, Mr. Grant," Mia replied, standing straighter. "Why do you want this job?" Ethan leaned back, his fingers drumming against the armrest of his wheelchair. Mia hesitated but decided to be honest. "I'm a single mother, and I want to provide a better life for my daughter. I'm willing to work hard and adapt to any challenges." Ethan studied her for a moment, his expression unreadable. Then he gestured toward the chair opposite him. "Sit." Mia obeyed, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. "I need someone who can manage my schedule, handle personal errands, and assist with tasks I can't do on my own anymore. This isn't a job for someone who's easily intimidated. Can you handle that?" he asked. "I can," Mia replied, her voice steadier than she expected. Ethan narrowed his eyes as if trying to gauge her sincerity. After what felt like an eternity, he said, "You start tomorrow. Helen will show you the ropes. Don't disappoint me." Relief flooded Mia's chest, though Ethan's tone left little room for celebration. She stood to leave, but hesitated at the door. "Thank you for this opportunity, Mr. Grant. I won't let you down." Ethan didn't respond, already engrossed in one of his sketchbooks. That evening, as Mia tucked Emma into bed, she couldn't stop thinking about the day. Ethan's gaze had been sharp, almost challenging, but there was something else behind his cold exterior. A guarded pain, perhaps. "Did you get the job, Mommy?" Emma asked sleepily. "Yes, sweetheart. I think this is the start of something new for us," Mia said, kissing her daughter's forehead. But deep down, she couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of a much larger challenge. The next morning, Mia arrived at the estate bright and early, her nerves on edge. Helen greeted her at the door with a clipboard in hand. "Follow me. I'll explain your duties as we go," she said, walking briskly down the hall. As they passed through the silent corridors, Helen outlined Mia's responsibilities. "You'll be managing Mr. Grant's daily schedule, assisting him with mobility when needed, and maintaining his workspace. He prefers everything efficient, no unnecessary chatter." Mia nodded, absorbing the instructions. Helen stopped abruptly and turned to her. "One more thing. Mr. Grant values his privacy. Don't pry into his personal life unless he brings it up first." Mia swallowed hard. "Understood." The first task of the day was organizing Ethan's art studio, a sprawling space filled with unfinished canvases, paints, and tools. The room carried the scent of turpentine and old wood, and though chaotic, it felt alive with creativity. Mia was adjusting an easel when Ethan wheeled into the room. His sharp gaze swept over the space before landing on her. He didn't acknowledge her at first, instead muttering to himself about a brushstroke he found unsatisfactory, his dissatisfaction filling the room like a tangible presence. "Don't move that," he said abruptly, pointing to a table she was about to straighten. "Of course, Mr. Grant," Mia replied, quickly stepping back. For the rest of the morning, Ethan directed her in short, clipped sentences. Though his tone wasn't outright rude, it was clear he wanted to maintain control over every detail. Later, during a brief lunch break in the kitchen, Mia met Sophia, Ethan's cousin. Sophia entered the room with an air of superiority, her expensive perfume trailing behind her. "So you're the new assistant," Sophia said with a thin smile. "Yes, I'm Mia," she replied, trying to sound confident. "Well, good luck. You'll need it," Sophia said with a laugh that didn't reach her eyes. Mia could feel the tension Sophia brought to the room and sensed that she would need to tread carefully around her. That evening, after a long day of instructions and terse interactions with Ethan, Mia found a note tucked under her notebook. The words chilled her. "Leave before it's too late." Her heart raced, but Mia clenched the note in her hand. She thought of Emma and the promise she had made. "I'm not giving up," she whispered to herself, determined to face whatever challenges lay ahead. After a week of navigating Ethan's demands and Sophia's veiled hostility, Mia decided it was time for a break. She arranged for her daughter Emma to visit the estate, hoping the cheerful energy of her little girl might brighten her own spirits and perhaps soften Ethan's demeanor. Emma's arrival was like a burst of sunshine in the otherwise somber mansion. She bounded through the grand hallways, her laughter echoing off the high ceilings. Ethan, who had been sketching in the library, looked up when she peeked her head in. "You must be Mr. Grant," Emma said confidently, her bright eyes scanning him curiously. Ethan raised an eyebrow but didn't respond immediately. "And you must be the artist's assistant's assistant?" Emma giggled. "I draw too. Want to see?" Without waiting for a reply, she held up a crayon drawing of a house surrounded by flowers. Ethan leaned forward slightly in his wheelchair, inspecting the drawing with an intensity that surprised Mia. "Not bad," he said finally. "You have an eye for detail." "Thanks. Mommy says I'm creative," Emma replied with a grin. Later that afternoon, Emma convinced Ethan to join her and Mia in the garden. The vibrant flowers and fresh air seemed to pull something out of him. Though Ethan remained reserved, Mia noticed the corners of his mouth softening as Emma picked flowers and excitedly described her favorite colors. That evening, as Mia prepared to take Emma home, Ethan called her into his study. "Emma brought something to this house that's been missing for a long time," he began, his voice quieter than usual. "If you're willing, she's welcome to stay here with you. Permanently." Mia was stunned. "Are you sure, Mr. Grant? I wouldn't want to impose." "It's not an imposition," Ethan replied firmly. "This house could use more life, and perhaps so could I." Mia felt tears prick her eyes. "Thank you. This means so much to us." As Mia tucked Emma into bed that night in their new room, she couldn't help but feel hope blooming within her. Hope that this place, despite its challenges, might truly become a home. Life in the mansion began to settle into a routine, but tensions simmered just beneath the surface. Mia managed Ethan's schedule and Emma's lively presence brought warmth to the house, yet Sophia's disapproval grew more evident by the day. One afternoon, as Mia was tidying the art studio, she overheard raised voices from Ethan's office. Peeking through the slightly ajar door, she saw Sophia standing over Ethan, her tone sharp and accusing. "You're letting her and that child run this house," Sophia snapped. "They don't belong here. You're being naive, Ethan." Ethan's response was calm but firm. "Sophia, my decisions are my own. Mia and Emma are not your concern." Sophia stormed out moments later, her glare landing on Mia as she passed. "Watch yourself," she hissed, her voice low and venomous. Mia's heart raced, but she refused to let Sophia's hostility shake her resolve. Later that evening, while organizing the library, Mia stumbled upon an envelope tucked behind a row of books. Inside were financial documents, records of transactions Sophia had been making without Ethan's knowledge. The amounts were staggering, and it was clear Sophia had been funneling money from Ethan's accounts into her own ventures. Mia immediately brought the documents to Ethan, her hands trembling as she laid them on his desk. "He's been stealing from you, Mr. Grant," Mia said, her voice barely above a whisper. Ethan's eyes darkened as he scanned the papers. His jaw tightened, but he remained composed. "Thank you for bringing this to me. I'll handle it." The next morning, Ethan called a meeting in the living room. Sophia arrived, her demeanor confident until she saw the papers spread out on the table. "What's this about?" she asked, her voice dripping with feigned innocence. "You've been embezzling from me," Ethan said coldly. "It's all here. Every transfer, every lie." Sophia laughed nervously. "You can't seriously think I'd do that. This is clearly a misunderstanding." "It's no misunderstanding," Ethan replied. "I trusted you to manage my affairs, and you betrayed that trust. Pack your things and leave." Sophia's expression turned icy. "You think you can just get rid of me, after everything I've done for you? What you've done," Ethan said, his voice like steel, "is take advantage of my situation. That ends now." Sophia glared at Mia. "This is your doing. You don't belong here. and I'll make sure you regret this." Without another word, she stormed out of the room. That evening, Mia found Ethan in the garden. He sat quietly, staring at the horizon. "Thank you," he said simply, not looking at her. "For everything." "I'm just doing my job," Mia replied, though she knew it was more than that. As the sun dipped below the trees, Mia realized that this wasn't just a job. It was a turning point for all of them. With Sophia gone, a sense of calm returned to the mansion. Ethan seemed lighter, though the shadows of the past still lingered in his eyes. Determined to reclaim control of his life, he began dedicating himself to physical therapy, a process Mia wholeheartedly supported. One morning, Ethan asked Mia to meet him in the therapy room, a space filled with parallel bars, weights, and other equipment. He positioned his wheelchair near the bars, his expression resolute. "Today, I'm going to try standing," he announced. Mia hesitated, concern flickering across her face. "Are you sure you're ready for this, Mr. Grant? I don't want you to push too hard." "I'm already sitting here because I didn't push hard enough," Ethan replied, his voice firm. "I need to try." Mia nodded, stepping beside him. "All right, let's take it slow." With her guidance, Ethan placed his hands on the parallel bars, his arms trembling as he began to lift himself. Every muscle in his body strained, sweat beading on his forehead. "You're doing great," Mia encouraged, her voice steady. For a brief moment, Ethan managed to pull himself upright, his legs bearing a fraction of his weight. Though the effort was short-lived, it was a monumental step forward. "I felt it," Ethan said breathlessly as Mia helped him back into his wheelchair. "For the first time in years, I actually felt something." "That's incredible, Mr. Grant," Mia said, her face glowing with pride. "This is just the beginning." The therapy sessions became a daily routine, each small victory reinforcing Ethan's determination. Mia was always there, ready to assist and encourage, her unwavering belief in his potential pushing him further. One evening, after a particularly grueling session, Ethan looked at Mia and said, "I wouldn't have made it this far without you. I owe you more than I can say." Mia smiled softly. "You're doing this for yourself, Mr. Grant. I'm just here to remind you what you're capable of." Ethan's recovery wasn't just physical. His spirit began to heal as well. For the first time in years, he started to envision a future, one where he could stand tall, not just in body but in mind and heart. Emma's presence in the mansion wasn't just a comfort for Mia. It became a source of light for Ethan as well. Her boundless curiosity and genuine warmth began to seep into the corners of the house that had long been shrouded in silence. One afternoon, Ethan was sketching in his studio when Emma peeked around the door. "What are you drawing today, Mr. Grant?" she asked, stepping inside without hesitation. Ethan looked up, mildly surprised. "A landscape," he replied shortly, expecting her to lose interest. Instead, Emma walked closer, her eyes wide with wonder. "It looks like a secret garden. Can I try?" Ethan raised an eyebrow but handed her a spare sketch pad. "Let's see what you can do." As Emma settled next to him, her small hands gripping the pencil with determination, Ethan found himself watching her more than his own work. Her strokes were uneven, and her proportions imperfect, but there was an unmistakable energy in her drawing. "That's not bad," Ethan said, leaning closer. Emma beamed. "Really? Mommy says I have a big imagination." The afternoon became a regular ritual. Emma would join Ethan in the studio, often asking questions about his paintings or telling stories about her school friends. Ethan, who had spent years avoiding conversation, found himself listening and even responding. One day, Emma handed him a drawing she had worked on for hours. It was a picture of Ethan standing tall in the garden, surrounded by flowers. "This is you, Mr. Grant. One day, you'll walk again, just like this." Ethan stared at the drawing for a long time. His throat tightened, and he felt a strange warmth in his chest. "Thank you, Emma," he said softly, his voice barely audible. Emma's innocence stripped away the walls Ethan had built around himself. She didn't see him as broken or bitter, just as a man who needed a little help to find his way again. Later that evening, Ethan spoke to Mia as she prepared tea in the kitchen. "Your daughter, she reminds me of everything I thought I'd lost. She makes me believe maybe not everything is gone." Mia smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. "That's what Emma does. She has a way of seeing the good in everything and everyone." For the first time in years, Ethan allowed himself to hope, all because of a child's unshakable faith in him. As the days turned into weeks, the rhythm of life in the mansion settled into something almost comforting. Ethan's physical therapy sessions grew more demanding, but so did his determination. Mia remained by his side through every struggle, her quiet encouragement becoming an anchor in his life. At first, Mia convinced herself that her feelings for Ethan were purely professional. She admired his resilience and appreciated his trust in her abilities. But as they spent more time together, her heart began to tell her otherwise. It was in the small, unguarded moments that Mia felt her emotions deepen. The way Ethan's brow furrowed in concentration during therapy, the soft chuckle he allowed himself when Emma told one of her wild stories, or the way his piercing eyes softened when they caught hers across the room. These were the moments that lingered in her mind long after the day was done. One evening, while preparing dinner in the kitchen, Mia found herself lost in thought. She was stirring a pot of soup when Helen walked in and gave her a knowing look. "You care for him, don't you?" Helen asked, her tone gentle but direct. Mia froze, her hand tightening around the spoon. I don't know what you mean." Helen smiled faintly. "It's written all over your face, and if you're wondering, yes, he feels the same." Mia's heart skipped a beat. Could it be true? That night, as Mia sat in the library organizing Ethan's books, he entered the room and paused, watching her for a moment. "You're always working," Ethan said, his tone softer than usual. "It's my job," Mia replied, smiling without looking up. "No," he said, wheeling closer, "you do more than that. You care. For Emma, for me, you've made this house feel alive again." Mia's cheeks flushed, but she met his gaze. "You've done the same for me, Ethan. Being here, with you and Emma, it's given me a sense of purpose I didn't know I needed." For the first time, Ethan's walls seemed to crumble entirely. "I don't know when it happened," he admitted, his voice low, "but I've come to care for you, Mia, deeply." Mia's breath caught. "I feel the same," she whispered. In that quiet moment, surrounded by the warmth of the library, they both realized that their connection had grown into something far greater than either of them had expected. A love born out of shared struggles and a renewed hope for the future. As weeks turned into months, the mansion transformed from a place of silence and tension to a home filled with warmth and laughter. Ethan's progress in physical therapy continued steadily, and Emma's presence remained a constant source of inspiration for everyone. One sunny afternoon, Ethan achieved what once seemed impossible. He took his first unaided step. Using the parallel bars for support, he moved one leg forward, then the other. Mia, watching from nearby, clapped her hands over her mouth, tears streaming down her face. "You did it, Mr. Grant," she exclaimed, her voice breaking with emotion. Ethan, breathless but smiling, turned to her. "We did it. I wouldn't have gotten here without you, or Emma." Later that day, as the golden light of sunset poured into the garden, Ethan asked Mia and Emma to join him. Emma skipped ahead, picking flowers as Ethan and Mia followed at a slower pace. "I've been thinking about something," Ethan said, breaking the companionable silence. Mia glanced at him, curious. "What is it?" Ethan stopped his wheelchair and turned to face her. "You've given me more than just assistance, Mia. You've given me hope. You've reminded me what it means to fight for something, and someone." Mia felt her cheeks flush. "I've just been doing my job," she replied softly. Ethan shook his head. "It's much more than that. I want you to stay, not as my assistant, but as my partner." Mia froze, her heart racing. "I'm asking you to be part of my life," Ethan said simply, his eyes steady on hers. Emma, overhearing, ran up and threw her arms around both of them. "Does this mean we're a family now?" she asked excitedly. Ethan laughed, a sound Mia hadn't heard before, genuine and full of joy. "Yes, Emma. If your mom says yes, we'll be a family." Mia looked at Ethan, tears in her eyes, and nodded. Yes. In that moment, the mansion, once a symbol of isolation, became a place of love and new beginnings. Ethan's recovery, Mia's resilience, and Emma's innocence had brought them together, proving that even in the darkest times, hope and love could light the way. It was a sunny morning, and the mansion was alive with the vibrant colors of spring. The garden, once a place Ethan avoided, was now his favorite spot. Mia was there too, tending to the flowers while Emma ran around with a kite, her laughter filling the air. Ethan watched them from the patio, a rare smile lighting up his face. "Mia," he called, his voice warm. She turned, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Yes, Ethan? Could you come here for a moment?" he asked, gesturing to the bench beside him. Mia walked over, sitting next to him as Emma's laughter floated in the background. Ethan hesitated for a moment, his fingers brushing the edge of a small velvet box in his pocket. The sunlight caught his expression, part hope, part nervousness, as he finally pulled it out. "Mia," he began, his tone steady but his hands trembling slightly. "You came into my life when I had given up on hope. You showed me kindness, strength, and love when I thought I didn't deserve any of it. You gave Emma and me a family, a reason to believe in the future again." Mia's breath caught as Ethan opened the box to reveal a simple but elegant ring. "I want to spend the rest of my life with you, Mia. Will you marry me?" Tears filled Mia's eyes and she nodded, unable to speak. "Yes, Ethan. 1,000 times yes." Emma, noticing the exchange, ran over and jumped into their arms. "Does this mean we're a real family now?" she asked excitedly. Ethan chuckled, holding both of them close. "Yes, Emma. We already were, but now it's official." A few weeks later, Ethan and Mia were married in a simple ceremony in the garden. The sun shone brightly, and the sound of laughter filled the air. Ethan, walking with a cane, delivered a heartfelt speech about resilience, love, and second chances. 1 year later, the house was filled with even more joy as Mia gave birth to a baby boy they named Lucas. Emma proudly declared herself the best big sister ever, and Ethan's once a lonely mansion was now a home filled with life, love, and laughter. As Ethan held baby Lucas in his arms, with Mia and Emma by his side, he realized that the life he thought was lost had been rebuilt, better and brighter than he ever could have imagined.